No one in that room dared to speak. The sound of machines filled the air, steady, cold, unforgiving. On the hospital bed lay Alexander Reed, a billionaire known across the world. He had built empires, bought islands, and controlled boardrooms with a single sentence. But now, none of that mattered. 20 of the best doctors stood around him. Cardiologists. Neurologists. Specialists flown in from different countries. They had tried everything. Every test came back confusing. Every treatment failed. The diagnosis was unclear. The condition was worsening. And time was running out. One doctor finally broke the silence. "We're losing him." Alexander's breathing grew weaker. His heart monitor beeped slower. The room felt heavy, like hope itself was sinking. That's when a small voice spoke from the corner of the room. "Sir, can I look at him?" Everyone turned. Standing near the door was a thin, poorly dressed boy, no older than 10. His shoes were worn. His shirt was too big. No one even remembered when he had entered. The doctors frowned. "This is a restricted area," one said firmly. But the boy didn't move. He looked straight at the patient, and frowned. "Something's not right," he whispered. A few doctors exchanged annoyed looks. "And what would you know about that?" one asked. The boy swallowed but didn't look away from the bed. "I watch people here every day," he said quietly. "I sit in the hallway while my mom cleans the floors at night. I've seen sick people breathe like this before." The heart monitor let out another slow beep. Alexander's chest rose, then paused, before falling again. The boy stepped closer, pointing gently. "See that?" he said. "His breathing stops for just a second. Like something is blocking it." A nurse hesitated, then leaned in. One doctor scoffed. "We've already checked his lungs." "But not there," the boy said, pointing toward Alexander's neck. The room fell silent. A senior doctor frowned, then turned back to the monitors. "Bring the ultrasound again," he ordered. "Now." As the machine was rushed in, the boy stood quietly by the bed, watching closely. No fear. No excitement. Just focus. Seconds later, the screen showed something unexpected. A blockage, rare, hidden, and easy to miss. The doctor's eyes widened. "How did we not see this before?" someone whispered. The heart monitor suddenly quickened. Alexander took a deeper breath. And in that moment, everyone realized something incredible. While 20 experts were looking at screens, a poor boy had been watching the person. The boy's name was Eli. He wasn't supposed to be there. He came to the hospital every day because his mother cleaned floors at night. Eli waited in the hallways, reading old books and watching people. He had seen doctors rush. He had seen families cry. And he had seen patients survive, and some who didn't. Eli had a strange habit. He listened. Not just with his ears, but with his eyes. While the doctors argued over charts and screens, Eli watched the billionaire's chest rise and fall. He noticed the slight pause between breaths. The way Alexander's fingers twitched when the monitor beeped. "Your machines are loud," Eli said softly. "But his body is quieter." One doctor laughed nervously. "What does that even mean, kid?" Eli stepped closer. "My grandma had breathing problems. Doctors said it was her heart. But it wasn't." The room went silent. Eli pointed to Alexander's neck. "He's not getting air the right way." A nurse froze. A doctor looked again. Then another. The senior specialist frowned and leaned closer to the bed. He watched the patient carefully this time, not the screen, but the man himself. Alexander's breathing was shallow, uneven, like he was fighting something invisible. Check his airway again, the doctor said slowly. But we already did, someone replied. Do it, he repeated. As the equipment was brought back, tension filled the room. The heart monitor beeped, slow and weak. Eli stepped back, clutching the edge of the bed, his eyes never leaving Alexander's face. The scan began. At first, nothing appeared unusual. Then suddenly, the image shifted. There, the nurse whispered. The doctor's eyes widened. A rare compression near the airway, small, hidden, but dangerous. It explained everything. The confusion. The failed treatments. The rapid decline. How did we miss this? Another doctor murmured. No one answered. They moved quickly now. Adjusting position. Clearing the airway. Increasing oxygen. Simple steps, once the real problem was known. The monitor changed. The beeps grew faster. Stronger. Alexander's chest rose more smoothly. His fingers relaxed. Color slowly returned to his face. A deep breath escaped his lips. The room froze. Then relief washed over everyone at once. A nurse let out a quiet sob. One doctor removed his glasses, shaking his head in disbelief. The senior specialist turned toward Eli. You noticed this, just by watching? Eli nodded shyly. I didn't know the big words, he said. I just knew something was blocking him. The doctor crouched down to Eli's level. You saved his life, he said softly. Eli looked at the man on the bed, then back at the doctor. I just didn't want him to stop breathing. And in that moment, every person in the room understood. Knowledge is powerful. But attention can be life-saving. One senior doctor finally spoke. Bring the ultrasound. Now. They checked again, this time focusing where the boy had pointed. Suddenly, the screen showed it. A rare airway blockage, pressing from an unusual angle. It wasn't the heart. It wasn't the brain. It was something so uncommon that none of the specialists had considered it. How did we miss this? One doctor whispered. No one answered. The doctors moved fast. Oxygen. A quick procedure. Adjusted positioning. A simple intervention, once you knew where to look. The heart monitor changed. Beep. 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 Stronger. Alexander Reed took a deep breath. The room froze. Then a nurse shouted, He's stabilizing. Relief washed over the room like a wave. Some doctors laughed in disbelief. Others just stared at the boy. The billionaire, still weak, slowly opened his eyes. And the first face he saw was Eli's. Alexander blinked slowly, confused. His eyes moved around the room, taking in the white coats, the machines, the worried faces. Then his gaze returned to the boy standing beside his bed. Who are you? He whispered. Eli hesitated, then answered softly. My name is Eli, sir. Alexander swallowed, his voice shaky. Why are you here? Before Eli could respond, the senior doctor stepped forward. He's the reason you're still alive, the doctor said. He noticed something all of us missed. Alexander's eyes widened slightly. He looked at Eli again, this time with curiosity instead of confusion. You saved me? He asked. Eli shook his head quickly. No, sir. I just pointed. They did the rest. Alexander closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, feeling the air move freely through his lungs. When he opened them again, there was emotion in his gaze. I've met powerful people all my life, he said weakly. Presidents. CEOs. Geniuses. He paused. But today, the bravest person in this room was a boy who wasn't even supposed to be here. The room fell silent. One by one, the doctors lowered their heads, not in shame, but in respect. A nurse gently placed a blanket over Alexander's chest. The machines continued their steady rhythm, no longer threatening, just reassuring. Alexander reached out slowly. Eli stepped closer, unsure. The billionaire rested his hand lightly on the boy's arm. "Thank you," he said. "You didn't just save my life." He smiled faintly. "You reminded everyone in this room why they became doctors in the first place." Eli didn't know what to say. He just nodded. And as the machines hummed softly in the background, one truth became clear to everyone present. Sometimes, the smallest voice in the room carries the biggest answer. Alexander's voice was faint. "Who is that?" "That," a doctor said quietly, "is the boy who saved your life." Alexander looked at Eli, really looked at him. The thin arms. The curious eyes. The calm confidence. "You did this?" he asked. Eli shrugged. "I just noticed something." Days later, when Alexander fully recovered, he asked for Eli again. They sat together in the same room, but this time, there were no machines between them. No urgent beeping. No doctors rushing in and out. Just two people, sitting face to face. Eli was nervous. He kept his hands folded, his feet barely touching the floor. Alexander noticed. "Relax," he said gently. "You're not in trouble." Eli smiled a little. Alexander asked about his life. Where he lived. Why he was always in the hospital. Eli told him everything. About his mother working night shifts cleaning floors. About waiting in hallways because they had nowhere else to go. About reading old books from the donation shelf. And finally, about his dream. "I want to be a doctor one day," Eli said quietly. "So I can help people like my grandma." Alexander leaned back, thoughtful. "And what's stopping you?" he asked. Eli looked down. "School costs money," he said. "We don't have that." For a long moment, Alexander said nothing. He stared out the window, watching cars move far below, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled. "I've spent my whole life being surrounded by the smartest people," he said slowly. "But the one who saved me wasn't paid to be there." He reached for his phone and made a call. Within days, Eli's world changed. A full scholarship. The best schools. Medical mentors. A safe home for his mother. No more waiting in hallways. No more sleeping on benches. When Eli found out, he couldn't speak. "I didn't save you for this," he whispered. Alexander placed a hand on his shoulder. "I know," he said. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Years passed. Eli kept his promise. He studied harder than anyone. He never forgot where he came from, or the moment that changed everything. On the first day he wore a doctor's coat, Alexander was there, smiling proudly. And on Eli's desk, he placed a small note. "Always look beyond the screen. Because sometimes, the future of medicine doesn't begin with technology. It begins with a child who pays attention." Eli's life changed overnight. Full education. Medical mentorship. A home for his family. Opportunities no one in his position had ever dreamed of. The long hospital hallways where he once waited in silence were replaced with classrooms, libraries, and mentors who believed in him. But what never changed was Eli himself. He stayed curious. He stayed observant. And most importantly, he stayed humble. Years passed. The little boy with worn shoes grew into a young man with steady hands and focused eyes. Long nights of studying replaced long nights on benches. Every challenge reminded him of where he came from, and why he began. Years later, Eli stood in a hospital once again. But this time, he wasn't waiting. He was working. He wore a clean white doctor's coat, his name stitched neatly on the chest. Nurses greeted him with respect. Patients looked at him with trust. Above his desk hung a simple frame with a sentence inside. Never ignore the quiet voice. Every day, Eli lived by those words. When machines beeped loudly, he still watched the patient. When charts looked perfect, he still listened to breathing. When everyone rushed, he slowed down. And because of that, lives were saved. Alexander Reed kept his promise too. He funded hospitals, not for profit, but for people. He built programs for children with potential, regardless of their background. He reminded every doctor he met of the day his life was saved by someone who didn't even have a badge. And the doctors from that room? They never forgot that moment. Never forgot the silence before the boy spoke. Never forgot how close they came to losing a life. Never forgot the lesson that no textbook had taught them. Years later, some of those doctors would tell new interns the story. Not about failure, but about humility. Not about a billionaire, but about a boy. Because sometimes, it's not about titles. It's not about money. And it's not about status. Sometimes, the difference between life and death is simply paying attention. So the next time you're in a room full of noise, pause. Listen. And never ignore the quiet voice. If this story touched your heart, like this video to support the message. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories. And comment below, what lesson did you take from Eli's story? Your support helps these stories reach more people. Thanks for watching.